How's it going, everyone? Mahaji here, back at it with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at a character that I believe is truly underrated in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends for me. Alright, let's get right into it. The character we're going to be talking about today is none other than Master Roshi. Alright, so Master Roshi's received a lot of buffs in the most recent patches, a lot of which were really good, some of which were quality of life, but overall, he's a really good character. As some of you may know, he was a support role for the most part in Season 3, simply because this assist used to be busted. Alright, this was a guard point assist that was 50 frames of block stun, had great hit stun, and it beat beams, and it was just really hard to deal with in the neutral. Now it is reduced to a shell of its former self, as is a gapped assist, both of which have 25 frames of block stun. But you can do something like this with it, which is really good. You get 50-50 mix off of this, so you can do something like this. Right. So it's a decent assist for block strings in the corner especially, but overall you're going to see a lot of people, if they play against this a lot, then they're going to eventually get hit to the idea that they can do this and reflect the assist. So other than that, I actually would point people to play more with his A assist, because I believe his A assist is actually stronger this season. It's a full screen single hitting beam with 32 frames of block stun. So what this means is that for a character like tingz, he gets fuzzies off of it, right? And not only does he get fuzzies off of it, but this actually has a lot of hit stun when it does hit. So for example, alright, it's 72 frames, which is basically Vegito A hit stun, has wall bounce, so you can actually do something like this with it in neutral. Right. And the next thing I want to talk about is actually the beam's active frames. So this actually has a ton of active frames as a beam. So as you can see, it actually is like on the screen forever, basically. It has like 25 frames of activity, which is insane for an assist to have. So it's really, really good, along with it having like really good block stun too. So assist aside, how about the character, right? We're here to talk about the character. So there's a couple things going for this character that are really, really good, and then some of that are just broken outright. So the ones I want to talk about are the broken ones first. So he's probably the most defensive character in the game currently, outside of his assist, just because he has access to a lot of defensive tools. He has 22H, alright, which is a anti-airing and low beating special. You heard that right, it beats lows and highs. That also can beat command grabs depending on when you time it, but it will lose to like Dragon Rush if you're just spamming it, so just be careful doing that. But he also has a guard point DP, which is a which beats safe jumps, right? So you can basically never, you can't out RPS this character. Basically what I'm saying is that, for example, if you have this character in the corner and you do something like this, and you're like, yeah, I want to beat his 22H, he just does this. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to beat that, so I'm going to just do this and go from there, right? Can't do that either, right? So then you're like, okay, well, let's say I play a character like Ginyu, and then I'm able to actually get the hit on him and put him in the corner, right? And then you try to go in for mix. Let's say you do 2M because he has that mix now, and he hits you. And he's gonna do like 5k off of that, by the way. So he's a character that is really, really decent at, or not even just decent, he's really good at just having you guess on your own offense, which is really, really hard to deal with. Especially because in certain situations, let's say you get this situation with a character. This happens a lot too. Right, so let's say this happens. He has leap. And leap is the next thing we're gonna talk about here. So leap is actually kind of absurd, just because it implies a lot with the character. So for a character like Beerus, to set this up, it means that he really doesn't have any pressure over this character. He can just get out. And of course you can meet him there and check him for it, but it's really hard to tell. And if you don't set it up correctly, he can just leap out, which is really, really hard to deal with, especially because he has so many flips. And you can never really tell when he's going to land. Not to mention he does have a beam, by the way, which shoots him down. So he has 22H, 214H. He has leap to get away from projectiles. He has flip to get away from projectiles. All right. Also has a front flip. So you can kind of see where I'm getting at. He has a lot of tools to make you guess, and his reward for like guessing correctly is much higher than most characters anyway. It's just because he can always front load his damage with something like this and just go into crazy damage. So he has a lot going for him in the movement department, defensively, offensively. The worst thing about him is probably his normals though, and this is where I want to touch on his weaknesses. So the character doesn't really do well with reflect. So for example, if I do this, I'm going to get smoked for this. I'm going to get 2M to death. Base Goku's going to do a level 2 into level 3 and it's going to kill me instantaneously, right? So the only way to combat this is that you have to do anti-reflect strings, some of which aren't true, some of which are harder to deal with. Like for example, if I do this is just to get back in basically. But you really can't gamble this too much, just because if they do reflect, you're going to get really smoked for it. So strings like this or strings like this, probably the ones you want to go for. They're also safe because this is -4, this is -5, and it pushes you back too. So you actually can't challenge here if you're the opponent. So those are basically his neutral or his normal options in block strings, just because he doesn't have a lot going for him. As far as his end buttons either, because this is -10 and this is -5, this is -14, and his 2H is -16. So like I said, his normals are probably the worst part about him, but his 5S is pretty good. It's basically a physical attack. It gels into vanish, which is pretty good. So you want to cycle through the options a lot with this character, especially if you're fighting against him, because he's gonna do this a lot. I've played many Roshi players. They all do this. He just has it. I mean, I don't blame him, but he just has options. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about this character is the fact that he actually, well, someone recently found that he actually has 50/50s in the corner. It was me, I found it, but yeah, I didn't want to take credit. So he has 50/50s in mid-screen as well, but they're harder to execute. But he does have access to 50/50s, especially assisted, and he can go for them after level 3s. He can go for them assisted like this, right? So he actually got really buffed with this change. And the reason why this matters so much is for all the reasons I stated before, with like him answering, you know, a lot of offensive or defensive situations. He does well with dealing with those. So for his reward to be that he gets a 50/50 after his level 3, or you know, you make him guess wrong and you put him in a situation where you're going on the block and he just does this to you, and then you're level 3, it means that he has a lot of leeway. He makes it so that even if you do spark his 50/50, those situations I stated before, you still have to deal with. You still have to deal with this move. You still have to deal with T2H. So it's really hard to deal with this character. He's very similar to Cell for that reason, where Cell will just come in and he'll do his level 3, and then you have to guess for a 50/50. And if you spark, well, your spark is gone, but the character is going to do character things. And I think that's really strong in this game right now, especially because not a lot of characters can do this. Even a character like 18, for example, her level 3 is really good because she gets a 50/50 off it, but she can't deal with every single thing at once, how Roshi and Cell can. So for characters like Roshi and Cell, their utility on a team skyrockets because of this. So for example, if I have Go Tanks and I'm just like, yeah, I want to do my bombos and I want to kill you, right? Alright, and then let's say I get them to a bombo, and then they finally get into a level 3, and I'm like, damn, now you're in a 50/50, and this character, of course, is going to kill you because he does so much damage in the corner, it's not even funny. Right, and I don't have the optimal combos, but you get the point. So, for a character like Roshi to exist on a team, it means one of two things. Either you're going to keep him for the 50/50, for a level 3 mix, and that's what you're going to go for, and then you're going to answer Spark later, or you just really like his assists. And even though his assists are good, I think not using him points in certain matchups is going to be really detrimental to you. For example, Beerus is one of those characters where he just kind of like floods the screen, and Roshi's just like, I don't really care about that because I have Beam, I have Leap, I have my own Kamehameha, which I didn't even mention, by the way. This move is absurd because there's so many implications with it. So First thing about this is that he gets an instant cross up that jails him to banish, right? So this is one of those like character gimmick things that if you don't like pay attention to that much, then you're going to be like, what the fuck just happened? But he has an instant cross up, all right? And when he does this, the flip that I mentioned earlier is going to remove his landing recovery on this beam. Otherwise, you can see -12, not the greatest. But his flips actually cancel landing recovery, which is really, really strong. So he has an instant cross up. He has a 6H, which is really hard to deal with. He also has the mix I said earlier, which is really, really cool. So this character went from being really annoying to deal with to mixing you while doing it, which is absurd. I think that's like probably the stupidest thing they could have done, because this character was already really good at dealing with stuff defensively, and now he just gets to mix you for it. He's just like, yep, I want to do that one, or I do this one, which I think is really, that one is hard to block. You're gonna get hit by that one for sure. And his reward got super buffed too. There was a recent change which allowed him to follow up solo after this, which I think was the stupidest thing they could have done, because this damage solo is absurd. This isn't even optimal, by the way. I casually did 58%, and it wasn't even optimal. So you can understand why I think that is just absurd. There's also other few gimmicks that he has that if he does leap out of this, he's +1. And that changes for which normal he does too. So for example, this is going to be +5, and off of this one it's actually +1. So these are things that you want to kind of look out for when you're playing against him, just because if he puts you in this and he does this and you got hit, you're like, oh, what happened? It's because he hit you. And I didn't even mention his offensive capabilities either, because his lariat is actually really hard to deal with. This is one of the craziest lariats in the game, because it happens at such an angle that if you see this, you're like, okay, I'm gonna just 2H, and he's like, yep, I'm in there again. So his lariat is -36 or excuse me, -38, -37. Okay, the game was trolling me. So -37, which means that the amount of time you have to punish this is actually not a lot. Comparatively, Super Saiyan Vegeta, I know a lot of you have been seeing him. He does the same thing. He has the same lariat basically, and it just goes super far, right? So this is like his option if he wants to get out of the corner. He can just do this and boot it up. It's not even a question of how fast he can do it. If you're Beerus and you put out orbs, he's just like this and he's out, and you can't do anything about it. Which is why I think pairing him with an assist like Tingz is really good, because you just cover everything. So overall, I'd say Roshi, his stocks went up really high when they added this mix-up option, simply because he's able to 50-50 you now, which was something he was not afforded to outside of maybe like this plus assist. But having the ability to just do this and 50-50 you is really, really good. Not many characters can actually just 50-50 like that. And on a team like this, being able to do something like, and I'm going to use A assist for this example because I think it's the better assist, but so for example, if I do like this, you're going to get mixed really hard with this team. So yeah, I think Roshi is really, really good this season, and I think he answers a lot of things. I don't even talk about 2 and 4S and neutral. The fact that he can point this up is so stupid too. He's such a cool character. I think his 2-2S even got buffed, which was, they just want him to be good. They just want him to be good, I'll be honest. But yeah, if you guys have any questions as to what teams you would want to run with him, I have a couple of suggestions, and I can even show this right now really quick. So there was one buff that he got to his J2L, right? And it's that it ground bounces, okay? And this ground bounce actually does a lot for him in combos. So if you get like a 2H, for example, I did the wrong one. And you do something like this, then you can actually link into tingz, and you actually get your double jump back, which is pretty good for tingz, right? I can't link it right now, but you guys get the idea. You're just able to go into this, and from there you just go into Ghostoki, which is really, really good, especially for a team composition like this, where Roshi is not the best on point. So if you can go into something like Ghostoki, it's really, really effective. So overall, I would say he's probably an S tier character. He's hard, but once you get used to the idea of just cycling through his options, then you're gonna realize, damn, this being -28 is like damn near unpunishable. This being -14 is ridiculous. This being 17, this being 19, you know, all of these things are just gonna come to you naturally, and you're like, man, I can just move around the screen and not worry about it so much. So yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Tell me how you feel about Roshi in the comments, simply because I know this character is memed on a lot for being old and bald, but I think he has a lot of merit in this season, especially on teams like the one that I have on the left. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys later.